You son of a bitch.
This is a sad show. You know, there's a lot of guys who don't realize that movies are a very big part of my life. You know, I'm a movie guy and I grew up with films. And there's some people, some folks in the movie business that hold a very, very special place. Carl Weathers has passed away, and he was one of the all-time greats. And I wanted to commemorate the first, and I don't like saying this whole thing about black this, black that. I don't like that because Carl Weathers was bigger than just a black actor. He meant more to the industry and more to his fans than just being a black actor, a black action star. But regardless, because of the kind of society we live in, I've got to say it, this was the first black movie star in history. I'm not saying the first black actor, the first black, because we've got Sidney Poitier and all this. Those are different kinds of, I wouldn't even call him a movie star. That's a great actor. I'm talking box office, the big time, the popcorn, the 80s, where everything went big. That's what I'm talking about. That's what Carl Weathers represented. And when I was a young guy, a little kid in Nigeria, in the early 80s, that was the only guy out there on the big screen doing big things. Carl Weathers, Apollo Creed. Guys, I'm going to go through everything, but I'm just going to say this. I have a different channel, you know, a channel dedicated to movies called Talkback. People know about Talkback because Talkback has been around for 15 years. Now, I had to go away and I had to go into the shadows to do different things. So Talkback kind of slowed down. But for those people who know who the Merc is, I know that the Merc has actually existed long before this new channel of the Merc knows what Talkback was and knows what Carl Weathers represented to Talkback, along with the other Mount Rushmore guys. So today, this is a tribute video. I'm not sure which version of the video I'm going to post on Talkback versus on my Merc channel. I'm going to make that decision after this is done. But you know, whether you're bored or you're not into movies or you don't care about movies, I don't care, because this is a Mount Rushmore guy. And I'm dedicating however long this takes for me to go through how big a deal Carl Weathers was to the industry, to black culture, to the black image, to movies, to movie fans, to everybody that gives a damn about the big time. I'm going to talk about it today. So let me just paint a picture for you guys. I'm a little kid, 4 or 5 years old. I looked up to certain guys in the movies because movies were my thing. The first memory that I even have of movies is Superman the movie. Superman 79 with Christopher Reeve. That's the first, when I think back, I'm like, what's the first movie memory I have? The first movie memory I have is Superman. Then next to that is Empire Strikes, well, Star Wars, like A New Hope. Those are like the first memories that I have of films, okay? But my heroes from those movies were Christopher Reeve and Luke Skywalker. Now, as you can see, because you know who you're looking at here, neither of those actors look anything like me. They don't. So when I was looking up to these guys and wanting to be them, I wasn't able to be them at a particular point. Because you can wear the clothes, you can say the lines, you can do the things, but you can't be that because they're literally visually, they're the opposite of what you look like. And their image was glorified. Similarly, and again, I'm going to talk about I'm going from the beginnings now because I need to give this guy his full-on props. So when I was young, those were my guys, Christopher Reeve, you know, Luke Skywalker, and to this day, that's not changed. But back then, there was a movie that came out, aka Rocky, which had come out before I was born, but I was watching Rocky 1 and 2 when I was a little kid in the early 80s in Surulere, Nigeria. For those who know where Surulere is, mainland Lagos. I was watching those films. And I remember Rocky 1 and when they drew and you know, that dramatic thing when Rocky Balboa fought, but he wasn't able to, he couldn't beat, what do they call it? Apollo Creed couldn't beat him, blah, 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 so on and so forth. But regardless, I was like, who is this guy? Because the thing is, all the action stars of that era, from Flash Gordon, which was another fantastic film that if you've not seen that, it's a classic, Flash Gordon from the 80s. You know, Flash Gordon, Luke Skywalker, Superman, all of these guys, they're all white. So it's like, that was in my head as a little kid, that's what a hero looks like. For you to be a hero, you've got to be white. And listen, I'm a little child. What else am I going to think? Because these are the people doing the things that appeal to me the most. when I was 5, 6 years old. Superman flying around the world, closing gaps in the earth, you know, lifting up cars, running at super speed, saving Lois Lane from the building, Luke Skywalker saving Princess Leia, swinging across the ravine, training with his blue lightsaber, training with the Force with Obi-Wan. These were my guys. This is pre-Stallone in Rambo, because Stallone was in Rocky, but this is pre-Stallone coming out, and I'm going to get to that. I'm going to get to that about what Carl Weathers means. So this early day, I'm saying that there's this man called Carl Weathers, and I'm like, who is this guy? Because it's not the way, it's the swag that he had. He wasn't on the screen like a meek guy in Rocky 1. This, the energy, the vibe, the vibrance of Apollo Creed. I was like, who is this guy? He wasn't step and fetch it. He wasn't like playing second fiddle. Yes, we know that Apollo Creed was based on a Muhammad Ali. We know that. That's where he drew that inspiration from. But the way this guy put that thing on the table, man, that didn't really trigger me at that age because I was still Luke Skywalker, Christopher Reeve. Fast forward, I get a little bit older. I'm now 6, 7, I'm like about 7 years old. Rocky 3 comes out. Apollo Creed now is training Rocky. And close to this time, Rambo also comes out. Rambo First Blood had come out before. I never really saw First Blood Part 1. First Blood Part 2 was the movie that I saw first before I saw First Blood Part 1. And listen, guys, that was when Stallone became a guy for me. Like, I mean, I was like, you know, that he became like he was a Mount Rushmore from Rambo First Blood Part 2. Now, Stallone has done certain things that I won't get into here that really messed up my fandom of him. It really messed me up because Stallone is one of my main guys, was one of my main guys. And something happened again that, you know, some people might know what I'm talking about. Some people probably don't know what I'm talking about. But that really affected me because of how big a deal Stallone is to me. But in that movie, in Rocky 3, I saw this Apollo Creed again and I'm like, man, you know, this guy's back, and the energy and the, you know, when he said, there is no tomorrow, there is no tomorrow. And he was training him with that little ridiculous shirt that he was wearing on the beach. And when they're running on the beach and, you know, they're hugging and listen, that scene was very weird. And even when I was young, I was like, what are these guys doing? Regardless, that film further sort of put him in my mind. And there was a movie called Action Jackson that was coming. And I was like, I heard about Action Jackson when it came out. I didn't watch it when it came out, but it came out. Now, this was the era when action became a thing. Like, it became solidified. And the Mount Rushmore guys started making their bones, started putting themselves on that mountain. Arnie came out with Terminator Part 1, the first Terminator movie, 84, I think it was. Arnie was just coming out with movies at that point. Who just coming out because he was like the new guy on the block, was coming out with movies. Stallone was doing Rambo. Bruce Willis then came out later on in the decade, like in 87, 88 with Die Hard to put himself on the Mount Rushmore. But we had one lone black man holding it down all by himself with all of these big time guys all around him. Van Damme hadn't even come into the game by then. He was sort of sneaking in towards the late 80s, mid-late 80s, because he had No Retreat, No Surrender. For those people who know No Retreat, No Surrender, that's what I first saw Van Damme, was No Retreat, No Surrender. Bloodsport came out later, you know, Kickboxer and all those sort of things, but that No Retreat, No Surrender, for those who know, and that kick that guy did, the iconic overhead bicycle kick on Van Damme in No Retreat, No Surrender, guys who know. But there was a lone black man holding it down all by himself called Carl Weathers. Now, by this age, Carl Weathers started mattering to me because I was now getting older and I was like, I need to have somebody that looks like me, man. Yeah, but yes, Arnie is my number one. Guys who know me know that Arnie is untouchable. They know that Arnie is till it's over. Arnold Schwarzenegger is untouchable, never replicated. Kurt Russell is on the Rushmore too. Go and watch Escape from New York and get back to me. President what? That's one of the craziest lines I've ever heard in my life. Kurt Russell, Big Trouble in Little China, come and talk to me. The Thing remake, come and talk to me. Don't mess with Kurt Russell. But we had Carl Weathers, guys. And this guy now, Action Jackson. I remember I was watching the trailer for Action Jackson and I saw that, is this guy chasing a car? Like, what's that? This guy's on the streets running after, like, there were scenes in Action Jackson that didn't even make sense to me. But the point being, he's doing this in the midst of white machismo, Arnie, Van Damme, Stallone, Bruce Willis, whatever. Carl Weathers is holding it down by himself. And the beauty of it, and this is the thing, which is why I said that the race thing wasn't a thing, because he wasn't coming out saying, I'm black, I'm black, I'm black, I'm doing black, I'm fighting black. He was just giving you quality action. And at the age I was in, like, I wasn't like doing like a racial thing. It was just very simple. It's like, as a black guy, I wanted to see somebody that I could emulate, that I could feel I could be one of these guys. I couldn't be Arnie, I couldn't be Stallone, I couldn't be any of these people, but I could be Carl Weathers, I could be Apollo. But I'm getting to the movie that changed everything. This is the movie that made his legacy solidified, and that movie is called Predator. Now, people may not have seen Predator, and I've told you that. You see, I have my top 5 films of all time. Predator is in my top 5 of all time. It's in my top 5 favorite films in history. Not best films I've seen. I'm not talking about best. That's a different list. But my favorite films, my top 5, Predator is in my top 5. Now, I'm not going to tell you what position it's in my top 5, because that's for a different channel. That's for Talkback. So if you're not on Talkback, you're not going to find that out. But Predator's in my top 5. It's a masterpiece. John McTiernan created a masterpiece for men. It's a man's movie. Like, any man, if you have a son, he must watch that film. Three or four strands of hair protruded from my chest after I watched that film, and I was only 9. My testosterone level increased after I watched Predator for the first time. No joke. You see this hair on my face, my beard? That's how I grew it, from watching Predator. It's a beard grower, chest hair increaser, testosterone booster, muscle amplifier. Predator, 1987, John McTiernan. They had guys in there, you know, Jesse the Body, I Ain't Got Time to Bleed, Mac, I See You Up in Them Trees, Billy, Dutch. You look good, Dutch. It's been a long time, General. Dutch threw his bag out of the helicopter before he came out of the helicopter. But again, there was one man in there called Carl Weathers. Amongst all those big guys, all that testosterone, all those stars, there was one guy in there called Carl Weathers, who produced the scene that defined the movie, The Handshake. That handshake shook Earth. It shook the galaxy, it shook Mars, it shook Pluto, it shook the moon, it shook the sun. The handshake, we can still hear the handshake reverberating today. And Carl Weathers did his part for that handshake. When Dutch walked into that hut, Dylan! And the guy came up to him, and they did that shake. And you look at Dylan's face, Carl Weathers, go easy yourself, Dutch. All right. Because some damn fool accused you of being the best. Listen, the delivery of the lines. Guys, as I said, this video isn't for everybody. This video is for those guys who know. This is a tribute, and I'm going all out. So I don't know how long this video is going to be. This is a full-on tribute to a Mount Rushmore guy, to give Carl Weathers his flowers. Unfortunately, I never had an opportunity to meet him. I would have said all of this to him if I met him. But I'm just getting everything out. So as I said, for those who know, keep watching. I'm not truncating this video. I'm not slowing this video down, because this guy represented for the black image in the way that it needs to be represented. He wasn't there talking race. He wasn't there saying that, look at me, I'm black. He was just doing the damn job and doing it well. So when I'm watching Predator and he does that scene, I'm like, that was when I was like, oh my God, this guy's taking this to another level, man. We know you from Apollo. We know you from Action. You're taking it to Action Jackson. This is another level. Those who know about WWF wrestling know how big a deal Jesse the Body Ventura is. Just because you see him as governor of Minnesota and all this other stuff, you don't understand who Jesse the Body is? That guy's legendary in wrestling. Legendary. So when he comes into a movie, that in and of itself was a big deal that he was in that movie. Then you've got Arnie coming off the back of hit after hit after hit. That was Arnie's, he was in his prime at that point. Like, this was, but regardless of all that, Carl Weathers, there was the scene when he says, what are you going to try now, cheese? I laughed so much when I saw that scene. I'm still laughing now. It's hilarious, but it's the way he delivered it. And then when he went like that, and then the next scene, his shirt is off, and then he's pulling, and the way he's pulling his muscles and everything, because he understood the assignment. He knows what movie he's in. He understands what he's doing. When they threw a gun and he caught that gun and he flexed to catch it, because he understood the assignment. You don't just catch the gun, you've got to add the extra spice to it. You don't just pull that cord, you've got to add the extra spice to it. Guys today don't understand those things. Carl Weathers did. Unbelievable performance in Predator, unbelievable. Even his death, when they killed him in that movie, the death was crazy. The look on his face, the performance was amazing. His physical condition. Listen, that's another thing that I haven't even talked about. This guy's physique was crazy. He had like a bodybuilder physique. He could have competed easily. The guy did not look ridiculous next to Arnold, which is some feat. When you know what Arnold looked like back then, Arnold looks ridiculous. So if you're able to stand next to Arnold in that era and you don't look stupid, that's some feat. He was next to Jesse the Body, doesn't look silly. That's some feat for an actor. He's not a bodybuilder, he's an actor. Yes, he had a history with the Raiders, American football. We know that he was an athlete, which showed. But my goodness, what a performance in Predator by Carl Weathers. Man, to this day, it's amazing. Go and watch it right now. Carl Weathers, legendary performance. So we go forward and like, that movie now becomes iconic. And then we get Rocky IV. And Rocky IV was pretty close. Predator was also in 87. So I think they came out like roughly the same year. Iconic performance again. When Dolph said if he dies, he dies to Stallone. But Carl Weathers had already done his thing by then. I live in America. And then when he was like punching the air and everything, when I saw that, I laughed because I was a little kid when I saw that. And I said, this guy's about to get finished off. Because Ivan Drago, by that point, were like, do you know what Dolph looked like back then? I was like, do you know who you're fighting? This guy's like genetically engineered to kill people. And you're singing with James Brown, with your top hat and your tailed coats and everything. And it was, but the thing is, he sold it to us. Because that was the assignment by Carl Weathers. He sold it to us. And the thing is, like, the point I'm trying to make here is that he was giving you performance after performance that were indelible. Like, you'd never forget them. The performance he gave in Rocky I, Rocky II, Rocky III, Rocky IV, each of them did something a little different. Rocky I, the arrogant champion who is just looking for Italian stallion. That looks like a damn monster movie. Just picking somebody out to beat him. Rocky II, when he was like, his dignity is on the line, and his trainer said, let it go, champ. Let it go. Let this one go. Never seen a man come back. And he's like, he just ignored him immediately. Like, I gave you a different performance. In part 3, he'd changed, he'd become a new man, and he was like, he wanted to train him because he said, I know Mr. T. And that Clubber Lang, we don't want to mess with that guy. I need to train Rocky. He became a new man. Rocky IV, he became the arrogant guy again, but in a way that I want to get my former glory back. I've got a chance to get my glory back. He did give you a different performance. And each of these performances, without it, those movies don't work. So we can give all the praise you want to Stallone. Without Carl Weathers, none of those films work. None of them work without Carl Weathers. So things died down after the 80s, and then that was when a lot of these other guys started coming through, man. Like, you know, Seagal now went into his own prime. I'm not a Seagal fan, but you can't say Seagal is not on the up there. You know, I mean, the guy is legendary in action, if you're an action movie guy, you know. And Van Damme now came into his own, you know, bringing out his own big-time films. He became by the time he was doing Hard Target, was his prime. Obviously, Arnold then became stratospheric. Like by T2, stratospheric. And Stallone had already solidified himself at that point as well. And after Stallone solidified himself, Bruce Willis by then was a superstar. So the Planet Hollywood days had arrived in the early 90s, and where Stallone, Bruce Willis, and Arnold Schwarzenegger combined for Planet Hollywood, and they were pretty much the 3 biggest stars in Hollywood at the time. But even then, everybody had a lot of respect for Carl Weathers. And even though his career, I believe that Carl Weathers' career didn't explode because of his blackness. Like, I think that actually played a factor in it, because he had all the materials. And if you go back and you watch the films I just told you about, and you watch Action Jackson, which was his solo movie, he had all the materials to be amongst the same group as Stallone, Bruce Willis, and Arnold Schwarzenegger. The only difference is that he was black. That's it. Like, listen, this was the beauty of it. There is no fan out there that disrespects Carl Weathers. Everything I'm saying, you know it's true. If you're a movie fan, and even if you're anti this and anti that, you're not even into all this race stuff, this is just a reality. If you're a movie fan, you know as well as I do that Carl Weathers is one of the greats. You know as well as I do that there is nothing that any of those guys were doing that is categorically better than what Carl Weathers put on the table. You know this. But in a way, he laid the foundation for the guy who really took that torch for the black image into the action world. And you know who I'm talking about, Snipes. Because the early 90s is when Snipes really just came out. Passenger 57 then came out. You know, he did White Men Can't Jump, all of these sort of things. But Demolition Man, mid-90s, and all of these sort of films started coming out with Wesley Snipes. Blade is his magnum opus, obviously the first Blade movie, which actually deserves this. I'm doing a special video on Blade because I'm not going to laden this video with that because it's about Carl Weathers, but excuse me, I'm going to do a special video on Blade. But Snipes just doesn't become what he became without Carl Weathers. He can't. So Carl Weathers, essentially, the work that he put in the 80s laid the foundation for what eventually happened with people like Wesley Snipes. Regardless, he disappeared for a while. And I actually even forgot about Carl Weathers for like most of the early 90s. Like I just forgot about him because he was doing stuff, and it's not like he went away completely, but he just wasn't doing anything high profile that caught my attention because, as I said, I was really focused at that time on what Arnie was doing, because I mean Arnie was like the biggest. I mean, this was True Lies era, man, you know, and a lot of these other new guys had come on. And like I said, Seagal, for whatever you say about Seagal had some classics in the late 80s, you know, which by the early 90s had sort of put him into that position when he did Under Siege. So in the, you know, we're talking about, you cannot say Marked for Death, Out for Justice, and Hard to Kill are not good movies. Like, I mean, some of those things are classics, man. Like, you know, it is what it is. Gonna take you to the bank, Senator Trent, to the blood bank. I mean, come on, guys. But again, regardless of all these new guys coming out, Carl Weathers, people still remembered because of the work he put in the 80s. So you still remembered this man. So that he then, and listen, he came back in a way that nobody expected. So Happy Gilmore comes out, and I remember seeing the trailer, I'm like, wait a minute, Carl Weathers is now doing comedy? Like, what is this? I didn't even know who Adam Sandler was at the time. And to be honest, let me be real. Like, that is Adam Sandler's best movie. Like, people can talk about anything else. And I was never, I didn't really consider him that funny in other films and everything. But that was a hilarious film. And that's a classic. Like, I mean, it is. Like, Happy Gilmore, Shooter McGavin, and all this sort of Shooter's Turn and all this sort of stuff. That film was funny. You know, Carl Weathers in that movie, he made it his own. Like, he showed that he had another side to him. He showed that he had a light-hearted, you know, he wasn't doing muscles, he wasn't doing any of that stuff. He was like a ex-golfer who lost his hand to an alligator and all sort of stuff. And the way that he played it, where it was sort of straight, but he knew what he was in, so there was a lot of comedy in it. It was perfect, and he became a very, very big part of one of the classic comedies of the 90s, you know, and a comedy which in many ways launched Adam Sandler's career. Carl Weathers played a big role in making that film work. Now again, Carl Weathers disappears for many years. We don't see him again. And, you know, I feel bad about that because, again, I feel like he deserved a lot more, you know? And he had a fantastic career. So I'm not saying he didn't have he just had an absolutely fantastic career compared to most people. The fact that I'm even making a video like this shows how amazing a career he had, shows how amazing a personality he was. But I still believe, even in spite of the greatness he achieved, I believe that Carl Weathers deserved more. Like, I believe that he should have had more. He should have had more roles. He should have been revered more. He should have been respected more. And he never really said anything in complaint about it, you know? And that added to his esteem, in my view, because he could have complained a lot about a lot of things. And I'm sure that maybe he said stuff, you know, maybe in private, or people who know him, or maybe there's interviews I'm not aware of and shows that, you know, he said, but in the general public, he was just always a very positive person. And that rubbed off on a lot of us. And for me, he was like my first action star that I looked up to. And I said that, you know what, I could be that. You know, there's somebody out there really representing my image, till Wesley Snipes came along. But he disappeared, man. Like, you know, since from Happy Gilmore, it was a massive longer. I did not really know about anything Carl Weathers was doing until The Mandalorian. And The Mandalorian really brought him back. And I think a lot of the adulation he's getting now after his passing is because he passed after his image was truly revived. It's like what Dave Chappelle did for Rick James. Rick James was an icon of the 80s and he disappeared. Nobody really talks about him. And for the new generation, like my generation in the 2000s, I knew of Rick James, but I didn't really know about his greatness. Like I was too young to really know. And when Dave Chappelle did his rendition of him in the Chappelle Show, and then brought him onto the show later on to talk and, you know, and everything, a young audience like myself, I was young, was reintroduced to the greatness of Rick James. So that when Rick James passed, the energy was amplified because people had newly rediscovered him and understood what he meant to music. I believe that that's what's happened to Carl Weathers now, because I see the outpouring which I'm very grateful to see that that's happening. I'm very heartened to see it. I like the way that they've not allowed his death to just go into the ether, you know, and this video that I'm making is because of how important Carl Weathers is to me and to my growth. When it comes to certain icons like Carl Weathers, it's so important that guys like us do these sorts of things just to let people understand and appreciate how big a deal people like him actually are. He's never going to be forgotten. It's crazy. Like, I do not believe Carl Weathers knows how big a deal he was. I don't think he knows. Like, if he was able to come back to life and just see what's happened, the people's reaction, I'm sure he'd be surprised. He'd be like, oh, wow, I didn't know I was that big a deal. Because The Mandalorian, look at what he did in The Mandalorian. He was so good in that show that when I saw it, I was like, man, you know, it's another guy like Michael Biehn, who was also in The Mandalorian. He's an icon, man. Terminator 1, Kyle Reese, The Abyss, Tombstone, Aliens. Michael Biehn is a legend, but nobody even thinks about him now. He's a legend, man. So I see this and I'm like, you see, for me, and again, I know the channel, like I said, I don't know what channel I'm going to put this on, because the people who watch the Merc don't know about Talkback, and the people who watch Talkback don't know about the Merc. And those are they're very important parts of my life, you know, the movies and Africa. Honestly, man, look, Carl Weathers, you will be missed. You lived an amazing life, so we can't say you didn't have a good run. I think you could have given another 11 years because you looked in fantastic shape. I have no idea what happened, but I want you to know that this man, who's now a man, was a boy once, and you actually really mattered to me, okay? And you mattered to a lot of white children who became men. A lot of children from all cultures give a damn about Carl Weathers. So to Carl Weathers' family, if any of you see this, your father, your uncle, your brother, your son, well, his parents are probably not alive, but your relative, your cousin, your whatever he's related to you, your friend, was a big deal, was a really big deal. And hopefully everything I've said makes you understand how big a deal he was, and the fact that as long as I'm alive, I'm never going to forget about Carl Weathers. And for a lot of people, they're never going to forget about Carl Weathers. And the only thing I'm sad about is I never got to meet Carl Weathers so I could do the handshake that shook the universe.